My dad humiliated me by destroying the $18,000 trip I saved for years to give him. Now his investments failed and he's begging for that money, but I had already bought a condo. I still remember the look on my dad's face when I handed him that envelope. After 5 years of saving, working overtime, and living in a cramped studio apartment, I had finally saved $18,000 to give him the retirement trip he'd always talked about. A month-long journey through Europe visiting all the historical sites he'd lectured about during his 30 years as a history teacher. I'd even created a custom itinerary with a travel agent, complete with private tours of medieval castles and accommodations in converted historical buildings. This was going to be his moment, his reward for everything he'd sacrificed for our family. But what happened next still makes my stomach turn. Dad opened the envelope, looked at the travel documents, and his face went from surprise to disgust. Without saying a word, he ripped everything to shreds right in front of me, and the entire family gathered for his 65th birthday. "I don't need your charity," he spat. "What I need is a son who isn't trying to show off how much money he makes while his father still lives in the same house he bought 30 years ago." Everyone went silent. My mom looked away. My siblings stared at their plates. I just stood there, humiliated, watching 5 years of my hard work scattered across the dining room floor. "I was just trying to dash," I started. "Trying to make me feel small," he interrupted. "I know exactly what you were trying to do." I left early that night, my chest tight with a mix of anger and hurt I couldn't process. No one called to check on me. No one apologized. It was just another episode of my dad's infamous temper that everyone had learned to work around. Fast forward 8 months. I got a call from my mom. Dad's foolproof investment opportunity had collapsed. He'd put nearly everything they had into some real estate venture that turned out to be mismanaged, possibly fraudulent. They were in trouble, and Mom was calling everyone in the family to pull together. When she finally worked up the courage to ask if I still had that vacation money that could help them out of this jam, I had to laugh. "That money's gone, Mom," I said. "I put it toward a down payment on a condo last month. Closed escrow last week." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. "But your father, we might lose the house," she whispered. "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied, surprised at how calm I felt. "But I can't help. Not anymore." I hung up and looked around my new place, modest but mine. For the first time in my adult life, I'd done something completely for myself. My phone has been blowing up with messages from family members calling me selfish, heartless, and worse. My sister says I'm punishing Dad for one bad moment. My brother says family should always come first. But I keep thinking about those torn papers on the floor and the years of my life they represented. I keep thinking about how not one person stood up for me that day. Am I wrong for finally choosing myself? Update 1. It's been 3 days since I posted, and I'm overwhelmed by the responses. I want to clarify some things based on questions I've received. First, this wasn't the first time my dad has reacted this way to something I've done. Growing up, he always had high expectations, but rarely showed appreciation. When I got into college with a partial scholarship, he focused on why I didn't get a full ride. When I landed my first professional job, he questioned why I wasn't making more. The trip was my attempt to finally earn his approval in a way I thought would matter to him. Second, regarding my siblings. Yes, they've always enabled his behavior. My sister called again yesterday, saying I should be the bigger person because that's just how Dad is. She suggested I could take out a loan against my new condo to help them. When I refused, she said I was being petty and holding a grudge. My mom called too, this time with more details about their financial situation. Apparently, Dad invested nearly $200,000 in this venture without consulting her. They still have their retirement accounts, but they're not accessible without penalties. The house has a second mortgage on it now, which is what they're struggling to pay. I asked her why she never stood up for me at the birthday party. She said, "You know how he gets when he's challenged." That's when I realized nothing has changed or will change. I'm holding firm on my decision, but the guilt is still there, lurking beneath the surface. I keep reminding myself that I didn't cause their financial problems. I didn't make Dad invest their money without proper research, and I certainly didn't tear up my own gift. Still, it's hard to silence that voice that says family should come before everything else. Update 2. It's been 2 weeks, and things have escalated. Yesterday, my dad showed up at my workplace. I'm a project manager at a mid-sized engineering firm, and he walked straight past reception, saying he was my father and it was an emergency, and into our open office area. I was in the middle of a team meeting when he appeared at the conference room door. My boss noticed him first and asked if everything was okay. Before I could respond, Dad launched into a speech about how I was abandoning family in their time of need while flaunting my new lifestyle. I excused myself and took him to the lobby, where he continued berating me, loud enough for everyone to hear. He brought up every perceived failure of mine since childhood. how I was always selfish and thinking only of myself. He even mentioned how much they had spent on my braces as a teenager, as if that was relevant. Security eventually asked him to leave when he wouldn't lower his voice. As he was being escorted out, he shouted that I wasn't raised to be this kind of person and that my mother was crying herself to sleep every night because of me. I returned to my meeting, mortified, and had to explain to my boss that there was a family situation. Thankfully, she was understanding, but several colleagues had witnessed the whole thing. After work, I received a group text from my siblings saying I had pushed Dad over the edge and needed to fix this before it gets worse. No acknowledgement of how inappropriate his behavior was or how it might have affected my professional reputation. I've decided to take a step back from all family communication for a while. I've muted the group chat and am considering changing my number. The condo is starting to feel like a sanctuary from all this chaos, validating my decision even more. Update 3. It's been a month since my last update. Things have both improved and gotten more complicated. First, the good news. I've been enjoying my condo and the peace it brings. I've met some neighbors, joined the building's community garden project, and even adopted a cat from the local shelter. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm building a life that's truly mine. Now, the complicated part. My mom came to visit last week, alone. She asked to see my place, and against my better judgment, I agreed. She brought a housewarming gift, a small plant, and seemed genuinely happy for me when she saw the condo. Over coffee, she revealed that they're not actually at risk of losing their house immediately. Dad's investment loss was significant but not catastrophic. They've had to adjust their retirement plans and budget more carefully, but they're not destitute. The urgency and panic were mostly Dad's reaction to having made a bad financial decision and needing someone to bail him out to save face. She also apologized for not standing up for me at the birthday party and for the years of enabling Dad's behavior. It was the first time she'd ever acknowledged this pattern. She admitted that seeing Dad show up at my workplace was a wake-up call for her. He's always been difficult, she said, but that was crossing a line. She suggested family counseling, which Dad has reluctantly agreed to consider. I'm skeptical but told her I'd think about participating under certain conditions, mainly that Dad acknowledges his behavior and shows genuine interest in changing. My siblings have had mixed reactions. My sister is supportive of the counseling idea, while my brother thinks we should all just move on and stop dwelling on the past. I'm still processing all of this. Part of me wants to believe change is possible, but another part remembers decades of similar patterns. For now, I'm maintaining my boundaries while leaving the door slightly open for reconciliation, but only if it comes with real acknowledgement and change. The irony isn't lost on me that the money I saved to try to win Dad's approval ultimately gave me something much more valuable: independence and the strength to stand up for myself. Final update. 6 months have passed since this all began, and I wanted to provide a final update for those who have followed my story. The family counseling did happen, though not without challenges. Dad attended 3 sessions before declaring it a waste of time and refusing to continue. In those sessions, though, some important truths came to light. The therapist helped me articulate how Dad's constant criticism and dismissal had affected me, and for a brief moment, I thought he was actually listening. My mom has continued with individual therapy and has made significant changes. She's standing up for herself more, has taken control of their finances, and even started a part-time job she enjoys. We meet for lunch every other week now, just the 2 of us, and are rebuilding our relationship on healthier terms. As for my siblings, we're in different places. My sister and I have grown closer through this process. She's recognized similar patterns in her own life and is working on setting better boundaries. My brother still thinks I overreacted, but has at least stopped pressuring me to fix things with Dad. And Dad, he eventually refinanced their house and stabilized their finances without my help. We've had limited contact, mostly at family events where we maintain a civil but distant relationship. He's never directly apologized for ripping up the trip or for showing up at my workplace, but he did send a card when I got promoted last month that said, "Congratulations. You've worked hard for this." Coming from him, that's something. The condo continues to be the best decision I've made. I've finished furnishing it, made improvements, and it's appreciated nicely in value. Sometimes I think about what that trip to Europe would have been like if things had gone differently, but I don't regret how things turned out. The most important journey wasn't across Europe, but the one I took to finally value myself enough to say no when necessary and yes to my own needs. That's a trip that was long overdue. To everyone who supported me through this, thank you. Your perspectives helped me stay strong when I doubted myself. And to anyone in a similar situation, it's okay to choose yourself sometimes. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you human.